Browne. Welcome to this week's edition of MFB News. I hope everybody is very, very well. I cannot believe how cold it still is. I'm still wearing like big thick jumpers at this time of year, but fear not, I'm sure before long I'll be moaning about having hay fever and being too hot. So in terms of what we've got for you this week, we're going to do the usual in terms of going through the latest changes in swap rates and lender pricing changes. We're then going to have a quick chat about property prices, a bit of surprising news in there for you. And then if things can get any more exciting, we're going to talk about making tax digital. And then finally, we're going to have a question of the week this week. Okay, so first up, mortgage pricing and swap rates, and actually no massive change since last week, although if I was really pushed to say, I'd say things have improved very, very slightly. So 2-year swap rates as of 10:30 on Tuesday evening, 4.519%. Compare that to 1 month ago where they were 4.360 and 1 year ago 4.472. So 2-year swaps up by circa 0.2% month on month. 5 years, very, very similar story actually for you. So 4.022 as of last night, 1 month ago 3.814 and 1 year ago 3.967. Now, over the course of the last week, swap rates actually had gone up beyond this. They were sitting at just under 4.2%. So if you think about that, that's kind of like a 0.3, 0.4% increase month on month. We're now sitting at kind of a 0.2% increase month on month. And that segues really nicely into what's been happening with lender interest rates. So there's been lots and lots of movement, unfortunately, very, very little of it favourable. So we've seen quite a lot of lenders increase pricing again in the last week, and that's just kind of following on from the previous couple of weeks. So foundation home loans have increased by up to 0.3, Lend Invest by up to 0.3, Coventry by up to 0.2%, Kensington have increased by up to 0.2, West One by 0.3 and CHL by up to 0.2%. So when we talk about the margins, the way that swap rates have moved, so peaking at sort of circa a 3.4% increase month on month, currently up on 0.2, that's why we're seeing the lenders increasing their pricing by those particular margins. Now we have seen Fleet actually make some reductions to rates of up to 0.1%. That could be a reflection of the way swap rates are going. It could be that actually when they repriced, and we've talked about this in previous weeks, when the swap rates start moving around and become quite volatile, lenders have two options. They simply withdraw their rates from the market and wait for things to settle down, or the other one is that they can release a new set of products, but they're going to price in and allow for further increases. They're going to kind of take a sort of more worst case scenario view on pricing. So it could be that Fleet kind of said, okay, we're going to continue to lend, we're going to continue having to have products, but actually we're going to kind of build in extra margin just in case things keep increasing. And so they've been given some kind of wiggle room to bring things back down again. Now we have also seen a bunch of lenders remove some of their rates in the last week. And it's going to be interesting to see how they react to the slight easing of swap rates. And it is a very, very slight easing, so please don't get excited, guys. I do suspect that the next week will be fairly quiet in terms of lender pricing movement. A lot of them are going to be saying, well, look, we've reacted to the latest increase in swap rates. We're now going to sit back and just wait and let things settle down a little bit, because lenders don't like to keep repricing products every 5 minutes. It's bad for borrowers because no one knows where they are. It's bad for them because it creates a lot of work. You wouldn't believe the amount of work lenders have to go through to bring out a new product set and going through their treasury, compliance, if you imagine all the marketing that goes into it, all this kind of stuff. So lenders don't want to be doing this every 5 minutes. They're probably going to be sitting back. So I think in terms of those of you who are saying, okay, well, you know, our rate's going to come down, and when are they going to come down? I think, you know, so far as I'm willing to kind of hang my hat on anything, and, you know, I'm very reluctant to do so after the last few months or years, I suspect that if we are going to see any pricing reduction, and we're going to need to see swap rates stay kind of where they are or come down further, we're not going to see any real changes for the next couple of weeks at least. Okay, now moving on to house prices, because it simply wouldn't be an MFB News episode if we didn't talk about them at least for a couple of minutes. So according to the latest report from Rightmove, property asking prices have risen to near record levels in April. They're saying that the average asking price is now £372,324 approximately, and that is just £570 short of the May record last year. Last May was the highest level of asking prices that Rightmove has ever recorded. Now, the number of new sellers is 12% higher year on year, and the number of sales is 13% higher year on year as well. So it certainly feels like the property market is bottoming out now. Now, in terms of why this is, I think, there could be numerous reasons. And obviously, as we always talk about, there's lots of kind of regional variations in terms of what goes on in the property market in the UK. But broadly speaking, because of the sort of level of pay rises that people have been experiencing versus the fact that house prices have been largely flat, decreasing, or maybe just increasing very slowly depending on where you're based, actually affordability has kind of caught up again in lots of regions with house prices, which is allowing people to be able to afford to buy houses where maybe they couldn't have done previously. So I think that kind of explains what's going on. Now, in terms of how this is impacting landlords' behaviour and what they're doing, we're certainly seeing landlords who are coming to us looking to think about buying this year, when maybe last year they'd kind of sat back, and even the previous year when the market was incredibly frothy. So there is definitely an appetite for people to buy properties at the moment. I wouldn't say things have really kind of got going yet. I think there's this kind of real sense amongst landlords that actually things may have further to go. But actually, listening to this data that's coming out from Rightmove, it could feel that actually we've kind of very much neared the bottom, or even kind of starting to come out of the other side. Okay, now it was reported in the week that HMRC have launched their pilot scheme for their Making Tax Digital, to test drive it before its official introduction in April 2026. And it got me to thinking that actually maybe not everyone is aware of Making Tax Digital, so it's worth talking about it because this is going to be a bit of a biggie when it comes in. So essentially, Making Tax Digital is a proposed quarterly reporting system for landlords and all of the self-employed. There are some exemptions, but broadly speaking, all self-employed people and landlords will need to do this quarterly reporting. Now, to begin with, there's going to be thresholds in place in terms of whether you do or don't have to use the Making Tax Digital quarterly reporting. It's starting off with if your gross income is £60,000, and then in 2027 that threshold drops down to £30,000. But the government have been quite clear on the fact that this is subject to change. So at the moment, in 2026, if your gross income from self-employment and rental is over £60,000, you're going to be doing this. In 27 is going to be £30,000 threshold. So essentially, Making Tax Digital is going to replace having to do tax returns. And what it is a quarterly report where you essentially report all of the income that you've received against your properties. And to do this, you're going to have to use specific software, apps or spreadsheets. And there's details of these on the government website. Now, at the moment, what they're saying is that most people are charging for these to access these particular types of software that you're going to need to use, but they are expecting some free ones to come out beforehand. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that, because God knows we don't need any more expenses at the moment, do we? So you're going to be reporting your income quarterly, and then at the end of your sort of what I refer to as accounting period, essentially your financial year, there's going to be one final declaration where you also state down any other sources of income, and can essentially the report kind of generates for the annual return, and there won't then be a self-assessment. Now, I've been very lucky to watch a few presentations on Making Tax Digital via one of the landlord associations I house that we work very closely with. And it's very, very interesting. And I think for those of you who are landlords or self-employed, or indeed both, it's worth knowing that this is going to come in, because actually you simply have to have income or rents of £2,500 a month to be falling into the threshold to be doing this in 2027. So it's worth being aware of this. And it's probably worth starting to research the kinds of software that's available, how you can get organised for this, because obviously if you're doing a return in 2026, then you're going to be reporting income that you've earned in 25. So actually the most efficient way to be doing this is to be starting to record everything in 2025, rather than getting 26 and thinking, dear God, now I've got to try and sort of scrabble around, which is essentially what I do every January when I'm doing my tax return. So I think it's just really, again, like a heads up, this is coming in. Do some research. There's lots of information available. Like I say, the landlord associations are wonderful for this kind of stuff. But likewise, I'm sure there's lots of accountants out there who will be able to help you as well. But really just to let you know that this is coming in, and to be very, very aware of it. Okay, and now we're going to move on to question of the week. And this is a question that comes up very often, and one that I've been asked in the last week by one of my very, very lovely clients. And the question is, I'm working full-time and traditionally on a PAYE job, but I've also built up a portfolio of buy-to-let properties, and I've kind of reached that very privileged position where actually I have enough income from the rents to be able to live. I want to give up my sort of day traditional PAYE job and simply live off my rental income, but is that going to stop me being able to access a buy-to-let mortgage? Fantastic question, and one that we get asked very, very often. So the very short answer is no, this isn't going to preclude you from eligibility for being able to access buy-to-let mortgages from most lenders. So the way lenders kind of underwrite buy-to-let mortgages, they tend to fit into, I guess, one of three camps. So the first thing is that how much income do you need to be earning to access a mortgage with the lender? So some lenders say we need you to be earning £25,000 a year income, and some say we don't mind how much you're earning as long as you earn something and it makes sense for you in terms of affordability. So what I mean by that is, if you imagine if someone was earning £15,000 per year, but they had no home mortgage, no unsecured borrowing, so essentially all of their income was literally paying for bills and then the rest was kind of surplus, lender's going to be able to get very, very comfortable with that. If you've got someone who's earning £24,000 a year, but they've got a home mortgage of £200,000, they've got £400 a month on car finance, £5,000 on credit cards, a personal loan for £25,000, you start to look at the numbers and think, well, actually, I don't understand how you can afford to live because you've got so many costs going out every single month. So when I say that it needs to make sense, that's kind of what I'm referring to. Now, in terms of the incomes that are accepted, so some lenders will accept rental income as income and some will not. So some will say, actually, you have to have income from another source. And that could be traditional PAYE income, it could be self-employed income. So it doesn't mean that you have to be employed, it simply means that your income cannot be solely reliant on rental income. Lenders can also take into account things like pension incomes, investment incomes, maintenance, some sort of types of income credits. There's lots of different kind of variations on this, but they're able to factor all of this in. But I think, so to answer the question, if you were to become a full-time landlord, I would say probably in the limited company space and specialist end of the market, pretty much all lenders are going to lend to you. If you are looking at the more sort of high street institutions, there's a slimmer number of lenders who are going to accept you, but it's actually still a majority that would continue to lend. So the answer is, go ahead, knock yourself out, stop doing the day job, enjoy your semi-retirement. That's probably unfair, isn't it? Because we all know being a landlord isn't quite that easy, but don't be afraid to give up the day job and focus on the rental portfolio. You will be able to continue to be able to obtain buy-to-let mortgages. And that's everything for this week. Fingers crossed, and doing a rain dance that we're going to be back next week with lower swap rates and a optimism for mortgage rates coming down, but we're just going to have to wait and see. There is so much uncertainty that's driving this at the moment in terms of wage inflation, geopolitical situations, the situation in the US, the situation in China in terms of both of their interest rates. So much going on that actually I do suspect that we're not going to see things move down either immediately or indeed rapidly as well. So just watch this space. But on that happy note, have a wonderful week. I will see you again same time next week. And as always, if you do have any questions, we'd absolutely love to hear from you. 0345 345 6788. Until then, take care of yourselves.